Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm Ukrainian Canadian. Today is February 21st, 2025, and let's get to the news and updates happening in Ukraine and Russia, shall we? So today I'll cover pretty much Trump and his latest statements, some more opinions that I have. This weekend I'll make a map update with you guys, a video about the different changes on the map. But I of course wanted to touch the subject of Trump because he's been in the headlines for the last few days. And before I begin, I also want to congratulate Team Canada at the 3-2 OT win against the United States in the Four Nations hockey tournament. It was a great moment for Canada, much needed moment, much needed victory, although it doesn't have the same weight as the 2010 Olympic victory in the Winter Olympics, but it was still a very beautiful moment. So I'm very proud of our Canadian boys who showcased again who is the true superior team in hockey. But credit to the Americans, they played very well as well. So let's begin first with the latest Trump statements, and I want to continue giving my opinions and my personal analysis of what's going on. So you can see that lately Trump has been making a lot of noise this past week, and today he had an interview yesterday with Fox News, and essentially said that remember that this week Trump called Zelensky dictator, that he's very unfavorable in the polls, that he is the reason why Russia invaded Ukraine, that Ukraine actually provoked Russia, Ukraine started the war, saying a bunch of nonsense. And he doubled down and saying essentially that I don't think Zelensky is very important to be in meetings, to be honest with you, referring to negotiations to end the war with Russia. When Zelensky said, oh, he wasn't invited to a meeting, I mean, it wasn't a priority because he did such a bad job in negotiating so far, President Trump said. He also reiterated his belief that his predecessor, Joe Biden, and Ukrainian President Zelensky could have prevented the war. Every time I say, oh, it's not Russia's fault, I always get slammed by the fake news. But I'm telling you, Biden said the wrong things. Zelensky said the wrong things. They got attacked by somebody that's much bigger and much stronger, Trump said. But Russia could have been talked out of that so easily, he added. But he also acknowledged that Russia attacked Ukraine without any reason to do so. Again, guys, I know as much as it is frustrating to be reading these types of statements, to hear them from Trump's mouth, continue to see Trump from the perspective of an aggressive deal maker who simply doesn't care about the truth and facts. He does not see good guys and bad guys. And once we start seeing it from that paradigm, we start understanding his motives. And it's unfortunate. I truly agree with you that it's unfortunate that he's calling Zelensky dictator. He says that Ukraine started the war. And he's essentially putting an equal sign between victims and aggressors, that there's no difference. They're all the same. And I think that the reason why he's been so aggressive in the past few days is because Ukraine didn't agree to that minerals, rare earth metals deal with the United States. And we had a little bit of insider sources and reports indicating that the United States just wanted Ukraine to just give all of its minerals and its profits to the United States. I think 50% of all the rare earth metals and the profits that would be generated out of that would be given to the United States, which is simply selling out Ukraine for nothing, because the Trump administration gave nothing in return to the Ukrainians for signing that deal. So continue expecting the roller coaster of news. It will continue with Trump. And I think his strategy is also about overloading the news and trying to make everybody just give up on following what he's actually doing, because there's so much stuff to cover. Every single day he says ridiculous statements that eventually people just say, you know what, do what you want, I'm done. And that's what he wants. So let's continue holding the Republican Party accountable, the Trump administration accountable. And I want to give you guys the silver lining behind this. You know me, I always like to present the positive side of things. And there's a lot of fatal mistakes that the Trump administration, Trump himself are doing right now. And so here's a few things I wanted to list out here. First of all, he's doing the complete opposite. He's trying to divide Ukraine, divide the Canadians, divide Europe, and his administration is trying to do that. But instead, he's uniting them. When he says that, oh, Zelensky is very low in the polls, the Ukrainian people don't support him, oh, Russia's actually not that bad. he's actually uniting the Ukrainians. Look at Canada, how we were rallied yesterday in the match against the United States, because it was so much more than just a game in the tournament. It was about making a statement that we love Canada, we love our team, and we want a sovereign Canada. With all the disrespectful threats by the Trump administration at Canada becoming the 51st state and calling, Justin Trudeau a governor, as much as I personally don't like Trudeau, I didn't vote for him. I don't appreciate another government telling Canadians, what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, right? This is not up to the Trump administration to decide whether Canada becomes a 51st state or not. So instead, he united so many nations against the United States. And if he continues down this path, it only will get worse, and people will not see the United States in the positive light. They'll see the United States as a toxic country. Second, he legitimizes dictators. And as you can see here, the New York Post, which is a pro-conservative news media, posted this in its as its main page. I believe it was today. This is a dictator. And you can see Putin is right here. So they had to fact check Trump. I mean, you don't even need to fact check. Everybody understands very well who's the dictator here. It's not Zelensky, it's clearly Putin. But he legitimized them, right? By saying that actually Zelensky is a dictator, not saying a single word about Putin. So that is also very worrying within the Republican Party. And the other thing, one of his fatal mistakes is he's paralyzing actual policy making, because he always makes such outrageous statements that nobody within his administration can react quickly enough to achieve progress. Because as soon as they're saying something that is remotely pro-Ukrainian, Trump comes back and says the complete opposite. So they achieve no progress. And you're already seeing that when Trump said, I'm going to achieve peace within 24 hours, then it's going to be in a few weeks, then now it's 3 to 6 months. I seriously doubt that even in 6 months, something tangible is going to come out of these negotiations. And it's going to take far longer, if not almost impossible, to achieve a true peace with a Trump that just is all over the place. And you can even see yourself with Mr. Waltz, Mr. Rubio, the members are in fact in charge of dealing with the Russia-Ukrainian war. They have to play mental gymnastics right now when they're being questioned, how do you plan on truly achieving peace when Trump is calling Zelensky dictator and not saying anything about Putin? And then they're all, today's response or yesterday's response by Mr. Waltz was, look, Trump wants to achieve peace. He's really presenting himself as a peacemaker, and he really cares about the lives of people and saving lives. I mean, you can see how much he struggles in really giving, in answering the question, instead avoiding the question. And he's going to be doing a lot of that because Trump is simply all over the place. And last but not least, another fatal mistake by Trump is that this is giving more ammunition for the Democrats and Trump's opposition. And I think that right now, while we're not seeing the Democrats really rallying together and going against Trump and all his other actions, is because they're giving 100 days, I believe, a few months, this kind of honeymoon phase with the new Trump administration, to commit as many mistakes as they can, and then they're going to go with the offensive. And that also includes within the Republican Party. I think a lot of people within the Republican Party, congressmen, congresswomen, and senators, even in the last few days, came out against Trump and his statements. Some of them were pretty soft against Trump. They just said that, look, Trump is not right. We know who the dictator is. We know who started the war. But the longer this drags on for, the more, even within the Republican Party, there will be a battle, kind of a House of Cards battle, where we could even see congressmen going against Trump and deliberately trying to hurt Trump over the next few months and years. So all that to say that we need to continue being calm. Do not be discouraged, guys. I know that there's a lot of discouraging statements from Trump's administration, but I see a lot of opportunities. And this brings me to the next slide. And you guys can, leave me comments in the comments section about your thoughts and opinions about what I'm about to say. So we've all been talking about and reacting to the Trump statements in his administration. So what should Ukraine do now? And here is kind of my my takeaway of what Ukraine should be doing over the next few months with the US and other partners. First of all, I believe that Zelensky and his administration should absolutely ignore all the noise coming from Trump and calmly respond back with facts and numbers, which they have been doing. So essentially, when Trump says, "Oh, Zelensky is very low in the numbers, in the polls, he has 4% support from the Ukrainians," Zelensky came out and said, "No, I actually have 54% support." Yes, the support has dropped since 2022 for Zelensky, but still, it's not 4%. Or when Trump says, "Oh, it's Ukraine's fault that Russia, attacked Ukraine, that Ukraine provoked the Russians, that they started the war," have Zelensky invite Trump over to visit Kiev to see for himself who the true aggressor is. As you can see here, Joe Biden visited Kiev. So invite Trump and say, well, Joe Biden visited Kiev. He saw for himself what was going on, kind of trolling Trump a little bit, that to force him to eat his own words. And second, I think that the Ukrainians should double down and continue working with the American government establishments. That means continue to work with Congress, continue working with the Senate, with the White House, Trump's administration, bilaterally. That means working with the Republicans and the Democrats, and just forget about all that noise coming from Trump's administration. We see that Zelensky continues to have negotiations with Keith Kellogg, with Marco Rubio, with Trump's administration with regards to that deal for the minerals and rare earth metals. So that's what Ukraine needs to continue doing. Even though it hurts to hear these statements from Trump, just forget about it, ignore it. Third, a wonderful opportunity here. Ukraine's hedge is Europe right now. Even if all of it falls apart with the United States and Trump tomorrow says no more aid, no more sanctions on Russia, tries to force Ukraine to capitulate, Ukraine absolutely has a golden opportunity right now to strengthen Europe's geopolitical position and establish a new European coalition. I believe that NATO is pretty much on life support. It's dead, and there's a new opportunity for Europe to revive its geopolitical position and have a new coalition of sovereign and decisive countries. We already have France waking up. Germany likely will elect a very pro-Ukrainian government in the next few days. The UK, of course, signed this 100-year alliance with Ukraine. We have the Baltics, Scandinavian countries. There's a lot of decisive European countries right now that are waking up. And so Ukraine needs to continue working with the Europeans and strengthening the collaboration and alliances here and forming potentially a new NATO without the United States. And last but not least, that's an obvious one, continue developing its own military-industrial complex to become less reliant on other partners, including the United States. We know that it's not going to be 100%. The Ukrainians are still very reliant on US help, and it would be very, very bad if, let's say, the Trump administration decides to cut it off. But Ukraine is doing great work right now to work on developing its own military-industrial complex, which leads me to the last slide. Because today there's a new announcement, and the Ukrainian developer Pars unveiled its new Trembita cruise missile. So this has been in talks for the last 2 years, but now it's been officially unveiled. As you can see, there was a military expo in the last few days. And so these developers of this Trembita cruise missile essentially indicate that the cost of producing this missile is around $5,000 USD, so $4,000 to $5,000. However, with the addition of a warhead and more complex avionics, the cost may rise to about $10,000 to $15,000. So a very cheap missile to produce. So that is great news. And they're currently working on completing the testing phase of the missile and the decoy version, and after which they will immediately begin to prove it in the strike version. So immediately test it on the battleground. Additionally, the developer mentions that the warhead can carry about 20 kilos, and it can hit targets at a depth of about 150 to 160 kilometers with speeds of up to 400 kilometers an hour. So a medium range cruise missile, or pretty small range cruise missile that isn't that fast. 400 kilometers is not a super fast missile, but it is cheap to produce. That's the most important. So Ukraine can produce vast quantities of the Trembitas. You can see now that Ukraine has several different cheap missiles that it produces, including the Trembita, there's the Peklo, Palyanica, and there's also Ruta. So these are different types of cruise missiles that have different types of speeds, different types of warheads that they can carry, and also distances that they can hit. So all of them are going to be great. There's going to be great nomenclature of missiles that Ukraine can utilize for different types of targets. So I'm really looking forward to see them being used in action over the course of this year against different Russian military targets. We're already seeing that as of the start of this year. Ukraine has been hitting Russian targets within Russia pretty much on a daily basis, maybe every other day. But every day there's something blowing up in Russia, whether it be warehouse, ammunition depot, a refinery, an oil depot, a military base. Ukraine has really been increasing the intensity, and this is going to only get worse for the Russians. That's why Putin is so desperate right now to reach a deal with Trump, right? And I think parts of why Trump is so also against Ukraine right now is because likely that Putin is proposing something interesting to Trump. So I see that maybe Putin has made a deal with Trump that, look, you have a holy war that you want to have with China. We can help you with that. There's also been rumors that Putin proposed the United States to work with them to have the Americans extract oil and gas in the Sakhalin Islands, which is the far east of Russia. So you can see that, unfortunately, Putin does have a lot to offer to Trump. And again, as I've said, Trump doesn't see good guys or bad guys. He wants to extract the maximum amount of benefits for himself. But this will be at the expense of American leadership in the world, because you can see that Europeans, the Ukrainians, no longer see the United States as a very reliable ally, unfortunately. So this is why Zelensky needs to work with Europe and continue building a strong coalition in the case that the United States decides to completely abandon Ukraine. So with all that, guys, I hope you enjoyed my video. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I really appreciate your support. Please continue donating to the Ukrainian drone funds so they can continue eliminating as many Russian occupiers as they can. The best resource that Ukraine has is its own military. And so please continue helping the Ukrainian military. With all that, guys, thank you so much. Slava Ukraini!